on OBS, it's saying that you're streaming, right? But then it doesn't actually pop up on my YouTube until right now. So I was always like seeing the ends of my lives and being like, or the beginnings of my lives and being like, I just look like I don't know what I'm doing. And so that was a quick test to see what happens. But welcome back. This is a conversation about James Clear's Atomic Habits. My name is James Rico, and I am a writer, director, DP, editor, and business owner. And I've specialized in music videos for the last 12 years. If you want to check out some of my work, it's at therealgoats.com. I work with all sorts of great artists, one of them being a DaBaby, who we've created such a great, historic, legendary movement back in 2019, which led to so many great other opportunities with working with all sorts of great artists. And so now I've stopped after the last 5 years working on music videos, and I'm currently trying to work towards my goal, which is writing my first feature film. And then I get to figure out how to make it, and then I got to figure out how, I'm gonna be the one that's going to direct it, and then I'll have to be the one that edits it. So a lot of really fun things along the way, but my goal is to first get my first feature film completed from a script form. So with that being said, I was trying to figure out ways to help evolve my life, and I always go back to that form of, I need to go back to my praying, I need to go back to my reading, I need to go back to my educating to help me work through all those struggles and doubts in early stages of trying to do something you've never done before. And I hope you can relate to that, and that idea that if you're trying to achieve a goal right now, or you're just starting out, or you're in the middle of your goal trying to achieve it, some things that will help you is reading, praying, being grateful, and the more you do it, the more it will become your own habit. And I got this book recommended to me by a great friend named Eric Fisher, who's a fabulous hairstylist over the last 30 years of his life. And he's also a great photographer. And so since then, I've been just doing reviews, and this is now on chapter 4. So welcome back. And this chapter is titled The Man Who Didn't Look Right. And this is going to be the first, starts breaking into the first law, which is make it obvious. So last chapter 3, he lets you know that if you want to create good habits, you have to first understand your cue, which is make it obvious. And then he says the next is make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. So a quick review of last chapter. So now he goes into the first law, which is make it obvious. And he starts with a story about a woman who sees a man, one of her friends, look very sickly at a party, and she says, "Hey, you don't look right." And he said he felt fine, but because she said that, she was a paramedic and was like able to identify the way his face looked and say, like, there's something wrong with you, you should go to the hospital. Sure enough, they go to the hospital, and they stop him from having this heart attack. So she starts to say, how can this help? And before I start going, I forgot, I'm trying to make these reviews a lot faster, so that's why I'm talking a little fast. But I'm gonna go ahead and set my timer, try to get this review done in the next 5 minutes. I was just eager to get into it. So here we go. Setting a timer for 5 minutes. So all I'm gonna do is give you the cliff notes. You can read the whole chapter to yourself. But the chapter summary is something that he always puts at the end of each chapter, and that's what I'm reading. And then I'll go back, and I've identified the points in which he's talking about within the chapter. So I highlight and I review. So I wanted to give you that context again. It was about this paramedic that noticed this one of her friends that looked sickly, and she identified like he needs to go to the hospital. And this is what James Clear is saying, an act of a habit that was formed from her because she repeatedly worked with people as a paramedic, and she could tell when people would have heart issues because of the way their face looked. So he says, which leads us to the first point that he wants you to remember. With enough practice, your brain will pick up on the cues that predict certain outcomes without consciously thinking about it. So he says, whenever you experience something repeatedly, your brain begins noticing what's important, sorting through the details and highlighting the relevant cues and cataloging that information for future use. With enough practice, you can pick up on the cues that predict certain outcomes without consciously thinking about it. Automatically, your brain encodes the lessons learned through experience. We can't always explain what it is we're learning, but the learning is happening all along the way. And your ability to notice the relevant cues in a given situation is the foundation for every habit you have. Okay, the next point he starts talking about is once our habits become automatic, we stop paying attention to what we're doing. So he says, this is one of the most surprising insights about our habits. You don't need to be aware of the cue for a habit to begin. This is what makes habits useful. It's also what makes them dangerous. As habits form, your actions become under the direction of your automatic and non-conscious mind. And the more you repeat the patterns, the less likely you become to question what you're doing and why you're doing it. When he starts talking about like this could be dangerous, that's where I was like, yeah. So when we start doing our bad habits. The third thing he wants you to recognize in this chapter is the process of behavior change always starts with awareness. You need to be aware of your habits before you can change them. So he says, our habits, our responses to these cues are so deeply encoded that I'll repeat that. Our responses to these cues are so deeply encoded that it may feel like the urge to act comes from nowhere. For this reason, we must begin the process of behavior change with awareness. Habit remains mindless. You can't expect to improve it. If a habit remains mindless, you can't expect to improve it. As the psychologist Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That's a hard one. It will direct your life and you will call it fate. The fourth thing he wants you to remember is pointing and calling. This is something that raises your level of awareness from a non-conscious habit to a more conscious level by verbalizing your actions. So I'll define pointing and calling for you. He says every detail is identified, pointed out, and named aloud. This process, known as pointing and calling. Pointing and calling is so effective because it raises the level of awareness from conscious habit to a more conscious level. Because you use your eyes, hands, mouth, and ears, you're more likely to notice problems because something goes wrong. So think of it like when you see something, an issue, and somebody not doing something the right way, and you call them out for it. Like, hey, you can't like air up your tire that way, right? You gotta do it this way. You need to make sure you use these things to do it. Or, hey, you're not like putting that lens on correctly. You have to connect it with the dots. Or, hey, you're not supposed to charge a battery that way. It's things like that. When you start pointing and calling. The last thing he wants you to start doing is develop a habit scorecard. This is a simple exercise you can use to become more aware of your behavior. So he says many of our failures in performance are largely attributed to the lack of self-awareness. One of the greatest challenges in changing habits. Oh, I was almost there. I'm so close. I got to give myself one more minute. Here, let's do it. One more minute. Many of our failures in performance are largely attributed to lack of self-awareness. One of the greatest challenges in changing habits is maintaining awareness of what we're actually doing. This helps us explain why the consequences of bad habits can sneak up on us. We need a point and call system for our personal lives. That's where the origin of Habits Scorecard developed. So again, he suggests, which is really cool, to make your own habit scorecard. It's basically create your own daily habits. He gives you an example. Wake up, turn off the alarm, check your phone, go to the bathroom, weigh yourself, take a shower, brush your teeth, floss your teeth, put on deodorant, hang up a towel to dry, get dressed, make a cup of tea, and so on. And he says once you make this list, then you go in and you identify whether it's a good habit, bad habit, or a neutral habit. Give it a plus or minus or equal sign next to it. Oh man, a minute goes by so fast. Dude, okay, so I'm going to finish this because this is what is important about this, and I think I took away the most from the chapters as scorecard. So, dang it. Okay, so we're at 10 minutes and 11 seconds on the stream. I'm going to make it a goal. I gotta give myself 2 minutes because this is the most important thing I think about the chapter, and then I'll personalize this. So he says, there are no good or bad habits. There are only effective habits. This is effective at solving problems. For this exercise, categorize your habits by how they will benefit you in the long run. Generally speaking, good habits will have a net positive outcome. Bad habits will have negative outcomes. So he says, if you're still having trouble determining on how to rate that habit, here's a question he likes to use. Does this behavior help you become the type of person you wish to be? Does this habit cast a vote for or against your desired identity? The goal is to simply notice what is going on and observe your thoughts and actions without judgment or internal criticism. Don't blame yourself for your faults. Don't praise yourself for your success. So he says, like, the last thing he says is the first step to changing bad habits is to be on the lookout for them. If you feel like you need extra help, then you can try the point and calling in your life. Say out loud the action that you're thinking and taking. Say out loud the action that you're thinking of taking and what the outcome will be. Hearing your bad thoughts spoken aloud makes the consequences seem more real. It adds weight to the action rather than letting yourself mindlessly slip into an old routine. He says you're getting yourself to acknowledge the need for action, and that can make all the difference. The process of behavior change always starts with awareness. So, okay, I got through that. I wanted to make sure you understood this like habits card is kind of fun because, again, my goal as I personalize this for me is to write my film, become a better business owner, become a better father, stay aware of like how I'm treating my family and friends, things like that. And so I started to like personalize real quick my own. And, I was like, wake up with no alarm. I just put wake up with no alarm, check my phone, go to the bathroom, get water, brush my teeth, make coffee, clean, pray, get Ellie dressed, make Ellie food, finish getting ready. Or I call Gabby and like let her know like Ellie's up, or like I text her or something and let her up. I always like text her when I wake up so she knows. That's one thing I didn't put. Off to school, or finish Ellie getting ready, and then she's off to school, whether I take her or someone picks her up. I read one chapter of a book, I do a review, and then I check social media. I write. I have writer's block. I eat when I'm stuck. I write. Get Ellie back from school. I cook dinner. Watch TV. Multiple hours. I said a bedtime routine, sleep at 10 p.m., check my phone, endless amounts of time. I put the check the phone endless amounts of time because I wasn't really sure, like I'm not aware of how many times I'm grabbing my phone when I'm feeling like a tick, I'm never really like paying attention to that. So what I realized really quickly was in between all those things I mentioned was that the things that I do often that feel very negative is check my phone or check my social media when I'm like stuck with something versus just working through whatever I'm stuck on. So, and then I realized I used to make myself a daily schedule to help keep me on track. And I went ahead and just like literally stopped. And I said, okay, these are the things that I need to do more often for a better routine to develop the habit that I want. I need to make myself an alarm, right? The first thing I said is wake up with no alarm. I need to make an alarm so that I can take advantage of the hours of my day. I need to pray right away so I can bring the energy in. I need to read right away because those are things I could do prior to Ellie getting up. Because when she's up, I have no choice. Like I'm now with her. Let me set my timer real quick. I'll give myself 3 minutes. I'll give myself 3 minutes and then we have to be out. The next thing I said was make a routine when I wake up, get up. The next note I said, when I wake up, get up. There are times, and I'm sure you experience this, where your body just wakes up like 4 or 5 in the morning for some reason, and you're like, man, this is too early. I'm going back to bed. And instead of just getting up and allowing yourself to start your day early, I know that pulls you out of a routine, but sometimes I think my body's just like, hey, you've had enough sleep. You need to get up. So I made that as a note. And then I told myself to only watch 1 hour of shows or movies as a reward versus like during the week. And then maybe the weekend, I haven't decided yet how I'll do this, but maybe the weekend I'll reward myself with like a full movie, 2.5 hours or something like that of TV. But I can't be giving myself more hours of TV during the week because I have so much other stuff to do. So I was realizing these things already, and I was even thinking about my eating habits. Last night I did usually whenever we order pizza, I'm like just a fat slob, and I'm just like engulfing as many slices as possible, not caring, eating really quickly. And I told myself to eat slower yesterday because I'm working on my health, and yesterday was kind of like one of those days, not because it was a force, but because we're together as a family, that it was easier for us to order pizza. And I thought to myself, maybe I should go cook instead. But I allowed myself to slip backwards, and I started eating the pizza. And then today I told my wife, I said, hey, if you ever want to order pizza, I would really like it if we, made it at home, so that I can control how much, I can control what's going into that pizza, and I know what's going in it. And I realized I was slipping backwards in my health, and the more I started to think about my identity, like he said before in an earlier chapter, which was whatever person you're trying to be, identify as that, and don't say you're trying to lose weight. Say that I'm a healthy person, or say that I'm fit, or I'm an athlete, and you start to already associate some of the things that you're doing with, okay, an athlete or someone that's fit or someone that cares about their health does not want to eat junk food, or doesn't want to snack, or they're not going to rid themselves of water. They're going to drink lots of water. They're going to be conscious of what they're eating, and they're going to have a routine of their workout. So I realized I needed to make myself a schedule. So that was the first thing I did today after reading this chapter, was design myself a schedule. I went into my Google Sheet, my Google Calendar, and started to just make a schedule. And I said, okay, let's work on sticking to this coming week, and going into the weekend. So that's what I did for myself. Whether you do that, I don't know. But the Habits Scorecard, I think, is a really cool thing. Again, the reason why I love this chapter was because it automatically allowed me to realize the things that I'm wanting to do and the things that I'm doing currently. So go try the Habit Scorecard. Let me know in the comments what your Habit Scorecard ended up looking like. Was it more pluses or minuses, or was it equals? So until next time, I appreciate you guys tuning in on this live. Go check out any of the other chapters that I've made reviews on. Go check out, if you haven't heard about the book of from Rick Rubin, The Creative Act, A Way of Being. I did like a whole series. I made a playlist yesterday, like I said I would. It's about 27 videos, and I still have 2 that I didn't ever post. So I need to go back in and like finish editing them and then post those. But it's a great book. Again, this is Atomic Habits by James Clear. These are just my thoughts. These are his words, my thoughts and reactions to them. And love to hear what you guys are having. I would love to hear how this book affects you, or the habits that you're trying to break and the good habits that you're trying to develop, in the comment section. Let's talk. Let's have fun. Until next time, thank you.